At my brother's party, surrounded by guests who looked down on me, he mocked me loudly, saying I was just a house cleaner. For a moment, the room felt cold, and all eyes were on me, judging. But in a twist no one expected, the CEO everyone admired walked through the doors, scanned the crowd, and smiled, calling out my name with honor. In an instant, everything changed, and the respect I had earned through years of hard work silenced every whisper in the room. At my brother's promotion party, he raised his glass, smiled at the crowd, and said, "I'm the successful one in the family. My sister, she just cleans houses." The room laughed, not awkward chuckles, real laughter. The kind that stings. I felt my face burn as people turned to look at me, some with sympathy, most with smug grins. I was the punchline in a room full of suits, champagne, and corporate pride. My daughter was standing across the room, holding a juice box, staring at me. She had heard it too. And then the elevator doors opened. Out walked a woman, in a sleek black dress, confident, poised. Powerful people straightened up, some whispered her name. She scanned the room, locked eyes with me, and pointed meat. "Your new manager," she said. The laughter stopped. Just like that, the room went silent. I didn't want to go, honestly. I stared at the invitation for a whole week before even mentioning it to my daughter. It was glossy gold, trimmed and screamed. Corporate celebration, the kind of thing I had no business walking into it, was for my brother Eli. He had just been promoted to regional sales director at one of those shiny tech companies downtown. It was a big deal company. Sponsored party, full rooftop venue in Chicago, catering, cocktails, and a skyline view. Our mom, of course, insisted I come. "Just be there for your brother," she said. "It's a proud moment for the family. That word has never felt simple in our house growing up." Eli was the one everyone expected greatness from. Star athlete, top of his class, full scholarship. Even as kids, people said, "He's going places." Me, I was quieter, a little awkward. I liked helping in the kitchen, reading, organizing things I didn't have. Eli's charisma or charm, I was just Sarah. Life didn't go the way I thought it would. I had Lena at 20 for her. Father walked out before she was born, and suddenly I had to make something work fast. I started cleaning houses. It's just a few to pay the bills, but that turned into something steady, reliable. I worked hard. I found clients, then I trained people. One client became 2 to became 10, but I never told anyone in my family how much it had grown. Not really. They still thought I was barely scraping by, pushing a vacuum for cash. And I let them believe that maybe part of me didn't want to correct them. Maybe it was easier than trying to explain that I was building something real. So there I was on a warm Saturday evening, standing in front of a rooftop lounge that probably cost more to rent than my monthly payroll. I wore a navy dress I'd bought secondhand but tailored myself. It fit well, but I still felt like I didn't belong. As I walked through, the entrance music played. Low, people, clinketed glasses, and every conversation sounded like a resume pitch. Eli was the center of attention, laughing, shaking hands, hugging coworkers. He wore a tailored gray suit, polished shoes, and the confident smile of someone who knew he was winning. When he saw me, he grinned, walked over, and gave me a one-armed hug. "Hey, you made it. That's surprising," he said. Surprising, not thanks for coming, not it means a lot. Just that. Before I could say anything, our parents appeared. My mom hugged me tight. "You look beautiful," she whispered, then more softly, "Try to be social tonight." "Okay." My dad gave a nod. "Glad you came. Eli's doing really well." I smiled and nodded. Even though it felt like I was shrinking, I noticed Lena standing by the buffet, dressed in a pink sundress and white sneakers, holding a juice box like a tiny adult. She smiled and waved. At least she was having fun. I stood off to the side for most of the evening, sipping a soda, smiling politely, listening to people toss around words like equity, exit strategy, and IPO. Nobody asked what I did. Nobody cared. I caught glimpses of Eli across the room. Every time he laughed, I remembered how he used to stick up for me when we were kids, but something shifted as we got older. Somewhere along the way, I became the embarrassing sibling, the one who didn't make it. Even now, he barely asked about Lena, never asked how I was doing. He just assumed things were the same, and let him, because tonight was his night, his party. I didn't come to make a scene. I came to be polite, supportive, keep the peace. But that night wasn't going to go the way anyone expected. Not Eli, not my parents, not even me. I had been at the party for a little over an hour, long enough to smile at strangers, avoid small talk, and keep Lena away from the wine table. The sun had started to dip behind the skyline, casting everything in gold. The breeze was perfect, the kind of night that makes the city feel like it's sparkling just for you, but not for me. I kept checking the time, waiting for a moment when it wouldn't be rude to leave. My daughter was getting tired. I had shown up, I had smiled, I had clapped. I figured I could quietly slip out without anyone noticing. That's when Eli tapped his glass. The chime cut through the crowd. Conversations paused. People turned toward him. He stood near the DJ booth, drink in hand, eyes glowing with the kind of self-assured confidence you either earn or fake really well. "Hey everyone," he said real quick before we get too tipsy and start dancing. "I just wanted to say thank you." Polite applause. He continued, weaving in all the right buzzwords. Grind, hustle, grateful, bless, the usual. I watched from the edge, arms crossed, half listening, half hoping Lena wouldn't get bored and start pulling on my dress. "And of course," Eli said, his voice shifting to that performative charm he used at family dinners, "I want to thank my family, my parents, obviously, for everything. My dad, who taught me how to work hard. My mom, who kept me grounded. Couldn't have done it without you guys." More clapping. My mom wiped away a proud tear. "And of course," he added, pausing for effect, "my little sister Sarah, she's here tonight too." I looked up, my stomach turned. People followed his gaze and found me. He smiled. "She's had a different path than me. I run regional sales. She runs a cleaning service." There was a beat of silence. My jaw tensed. "She's the one in the family who makes sure the floors sparkle and the windows shine. So if anyone spills tonight, don't worry, she's got it covered." Laughter broke out, real laughter. Full-bodied. A few people looked at me with that awkward, half-guilty sympathy, the kind that says, "I'm sorry he said that." But also, wow. I felt heat climb into my face. I wasn't sure what expression I was making, but I couldn't move. I felt like I was 8 years old again, being teased in front of the whole class and too stunned to speak. Eli raised his glass, but seriously. "Thanks for being here, Sarah. Love you." He said it like a joke, like love was something you toss around for flavor. I glanced over at my parents. My mom looked down at her lap. My dad sipped his drink, pretending to study the skyline, and Lena, my sweet Whitey Delena, was staring right at me. She had stopped chewing her cookie. The laughter died down. Eli continued on with some thank yous. But I wasn't listening anymore. The ache in my chest didn't come from what he said. It came from how natural it felt to everyone in that room, how easy it was to write me off as the girl who never made it, the sister who cleaned houses. What none of them knew, what even Eli didn't know, was that I had built something on my own terms. 14 employees, 27 regular clients, contracts with commercial spaces, real estate firms, and even a luxury gym chain. I had bookkeeping software, hiring funnels, onboarding guides, customer service standards. I had systems, I had vision, and most of all, I had earned every dollar myself. But in that room, none of that mattered, because Eli had a title and a salary and a company credit card. I suddenly couldn't breathe. I turned and stepped off the rooftop, heading toward the elevator. I needed air. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just pulled out my phone and called the only person who had ever treated me like more than just a cleaner, Claudia. I said when she answered, "I know this is last minute, but are you still planning to come?" There was a pause, then her voice steady, warm. "I'm 2 blocks away. Be there in 5. The elevator door slid shut. Behind me, sealing off the sound of the party, the music, the laughter, the clinking glasses, it all became muffled, like noise from a life I wasn't invited to be part of. I stood in the hallway, trying to collect myself. My heart was pounding, not from embarrassment anymore, but something else, anger. A deep, slow burn that had been growing for years and finally found a voice. I looked at my reflection. In the dark elevator glass, my dress still looked neat, my hair still held in place. I didn't look broken, but I felt cracked open. I had spent so many years playing small, keeping quiet, letting people underestimate me because it was easier than correcting them. I told myself it wasn't worth the energy, that my work spoke for itself, that real power didn't need an audience. But then I saw Lena's face. That's what changed everything. I couldn't let my daughter grow up thinking her mother was someone too. I couldn't let her believe that success only came with a title and a nameplate on a door. I pulled out my phone and texted Claudia, "Still planning to come?" she replied in seconds. I'm downstairs parking now. I stared at that message for a long moment. Claudia wasn't just my wealthiest client. She was the kind of woman who didn't flinch in boardrooms, who gave firm handshakes and direct eye contact the first day. I cleaned her home. She asked me how I organized my team. She listened. She offered suggestions. Then one day she said, "You know, you're not just running a cleaning business, you're running a company. Start acting like it." She became my mentor quietly, without judgment, and 2 weeks ago she made an offer I still couldn't quite believe, a management position at one of her companies in operations. Role for a new branch she was opening in Chicago, full benefits salary. Growth potential. At the time I hesitated. Part of me felt unqualified to rough around the edges, too used to being invisible. But tonight changed that. I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and turned back toward the rooftop. As I reached the door, I saw Lena leaning against the railing, watching the stars. I knelt beside her. "Hey, baby, are you okay?" She nodded slowly. "Why did Uncle Eli say that about you?" I paused. I didn't want to lie, and I didn't want to put bitterness in her heart. Because sometimes, I said, people don't understand what others are going through or what they've built. She looked at me. "But you work really hard." "I do," I said, smiling, "and that's what matters. But tonight I want you to see something." She tilted her head. "What?" "Just watch." We walked back inside together. I kept my head high, not stiff, not defiant, just steady. People glanced at me as I entered, and some quickly looked away. Eli didn't notice. He was too busy talking to a small group of colleagues. Near the open bar, then, I saw Claudia step out of the elevator. She looked exactly like someone who could silence a room without saying a word. Her stride was smooth and confident. She wore a deep blue blazer over a simple black dress, heels clicking across the floor like punctuation marks. Heads turned. Eli glanced over, his expression flickering with recognition. He clearly didn't know why she was there, but he knew who she was. Everyone did. She was the CEO of Vantage Corporate Solutions, the firm that had recently announced a multi-million-dollar partnership with Eli's company. She smiled at a few people politely, then walked past the bar straight toward me. People whispered. I held my breath. "Hi, Sarah," she said warmly, extending a hand. "It's good to see you." I took her hand, firm and calm. "You too, thanks for coming." She smiled again, then turned toward the crowd. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything," she said to the room, loud enough to carry. The music dropped, conversation stopped, and in that moment, I knew something was about to shift, something I would never forget. The room fell into a thick, unnatural silence. Claudia stood at the center, calm and collected, with all eyes on her. Eli slowly put down his drink. You could see the question forming behind his smile. What is she doing here? She didn't wait long. "I want to take just a moment," Claudia said, her voice smooth but firm, "to acknowledge someone incredibly important to our company's future." She let that sentence hang in the air, just long enough to gather weight. Then she turned and pointed straight at me. "Sarah Velasquez, meet your new operations manager." Gasps rippled through the room. A few people blinked in confusion. One woman actually dropped her glass, the stem cracking against the floor. Eli stared at me, frozen, confused, then laughing, like it had to be a mistake. "What?" he said with a small, nervous chuckle. "Wait, Sarah." He looked at Claudia. "You sure you got the right person?" Claudia didn't flinch. "I know exactly who she is." She turned to the crowd again, smiling just enough to be disarming. "Sarah isn't just my new manager. She's a business owner, a leader. She built a cleaning company from scratch while raising a daughter on her own. 14 employees, commercial contracts. 0 investors. Every dollar earned the hard way." You could hear the shift. People were no longer whispering. They were watching, curious, a little embarrassed, and some genuinely surprised. Claudia continued, "When I first met her, she came to clean my house. Within 10 minutes, I was asking her for advice, and over time I realized I wasn't just looking at someone hardworking. I was looking at a strategist, someone who understands systems, leadership, and people better than most executives hired." She let that settle for a moment, then turned to me. "You earned this, and I'm proud to have you on my team." The applause started. Slowly, just a few scattered claps from people who recognized Claudia's authority and weren't sure what else to do. But then more joined in, not because they knew me, but because the truth had a way of silencing doubt, clap by clap. The energy in the room shifted, and as strange as it sounds, the louder the applause grew, the smaller Eli looked. He stepped forward, trying to force a smile. "Wow, I I didn't know you were working with Claudia. You didn't say anything. I looked him in the eyes. You. Never asked. His smile faltered for the first time that night. He didn't have something clever to say. There was no joke, no jab. No recovery, just silence. My mom was standing near a high-top table. Eyes glassy, she put her hand to her mouth. My dad looked away, rubbing the back of his neck, and Lena, she stood there beside me, head tilted up, absolutely glowing. I leaned down and whispered, "That's the woman who offered me the new job." Lena's eyes widened. She picked. "You know, baby," I whispered, "I earned it." Claudia smiled at her, then turned back toward the bar, rejoining a few executives, who had clearly just realized the new manager their CEO was raving about was the woman. They had chuckled it earlier. I didn't gloat, I didn't raise my voice, but I stood a little taller. I had been quiet my whole life, but in that moment I didn't need volume to be heard. I had finally been seen. As the night went on, a few people came up to introduce themselves. Some apologized, others were just curious. I answered politely, but kept close to Lena. This moment was for her as much as it was for me. Before we left, Eli came over again, more subdued this time. "Look, Sarah, I didn't mean anything by the joke. It wasn't a joke. I said it was a reminder of who you think I am, but that's not who I am anymore." He didn't respond. He just nodded, looked down, and stepped aside. I held Lena's hand as we walked toward the elevator. On the ride down, she squeezed my fingers. "Mom, yeah, I'm going to tell everyone at school my mom's a boss now." I smiled. "Tell them." I've always been one. The morning after the party, the first thing I did was make pancakes, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Something about flipping warm batter in a quiet kitchen with sunlight pouring through the windows felt like a victory. A small one, a real one. Lena sat at the table, still wearing the glittery clip from the night before. She looked at me like something had shifted, not in a childlike way, but like she had seen something important and was still figuring out how to name it. "Did everyone at the party work for you now?" she asked. I laughed, shaking my head. "Number just some, but I'm their manager now. That means I help lead a team." She nodded, satisfied. "I think you should wear a cape." "I'll think about it." I said, but I didn't need a cape. I had something better: respect from my peers, my mentors, and most of all myself. That party didn't change me, it revealed me, it showed me the version of myself I had been quietly building while the world wasn't watching. Every early morning, every contract negotiated at a coffee shop, every payroll deadline I met when the numbers barely stretched, I was becoming someone strong, someone who could walk into a room and not flinch. When eyes turned her way, I used to think humility meant hiding that being. Modest meant keeping my success to myself, but now I know that humility is quiet strength, not silence, and confidence isn't arrogance, it's truth without. Apology. That moment at the party when Claudia pointed at me and said, "Meet your new manager," didn't just silence a room, it shattered a belief I'd been dragging around for years. That success had a look, a sound, a family-approved shape. Success isn't a title, it's choosing not to give up. It's building something when no one claps for you. It's showing up even when you're treated like the help after the party. My mother called me. She didn't talk about Eli, she talked about me. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice quiet. "We didn't see how hard you were working. We thought we knew who you were. We were wrong." She cried, I cried. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. My father didn't call but a week later. He dropped by my apartment with 2 bags of groceries and didn't say much. He just put them on the counter and asked how the new job was going. I told him it was hard but good. He nodded and said, "I'm proud of you." That was enough. And Eli, we haven't talked much since the party, but I heard from a mutual friend that he hasn't made many jokes lately. Maybe he's thinking, maybe not. That's not my work to do anymore. 'Cause here's what I know now. You don't have to explain your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding it. You don't have to shrink yourself to fit their comfort zones. And sometimes, the best kind of revenge isn't a comeback speech. It's undeniable growth. So now, when I walk into meetings at Claudia's company, I walk in with my head high. I talk about operations, leadership, pipelines, long-term strategy, and nobody asks if I'm there to clean the floors. Not that I'd be ashamed if they did. I built something from nothing. And I'll never be ashamed of that. I still run my cleaning company part-time. I couldn't let it go completely. It's where I started, and it's where I learned everything that makes me the leader I am now in Lena, she told her whole second grade class. That her mom runs to businesses, her teacher emailed me to ask if I could come in for career day. I said yes because it's time my daughter and every kid in that classroom learns that success doesn't always look like a corner office. Sometimes it looks like a mom in sneakers, carrying a clipboard, managing a team, and showing up when it matters, not just to prove something, but because she can. And if this story meant something to you, if you've ever been underestimated, remember, you don't need anyone's permission to rise. You just need the courage to keep going. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and drop a comment below. I'd love to know what part of this story hit home for you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story like this one. Thanks for being here. Keep building, keep believing your moment is coming. That night taught me a lesson I will never forget. People will always try to label you based on what they see, not knowing the strength, sacrifice, and ambition that burns inside you. My brother's words were meant to shame me, but the universe had a different plan. When the CEO called out my name with pride, it was more than recognition. It was a reminder that true worth isn't measured by job titles or social status, but by the respect you earn through character and resilience. I stood there no longer, feeling small but empowered, knowing that every late night, every sacrifice, every hard day had led me to that exact moment. Success doesn't need to be announced loudly. It walks into the room and changes the atmosphere. So to anyone who feels overlooked or underestimated, know your value is not defined by others' opinions. Your value is built by the work you do, the battles you win silently, and the dreams you refuse to let die. Keep going. Your moment is coming, and when it does, the world will have no choice but to recognize you.